Welcome into the Hard Count presented by Culver's. Merry transfer portal eve for all y'all that celebrate, man. We got a lot of things popping off in the college football world. A lot of people now taking a break from this wonderful sport. Not us, not y'all. Appreciate Culver's making this show happen and bringing it to the people today. Listen, we got Marcus Freeman on the show a little bit later in the action. Had a great conversation with him. Talked about his son committing to Cornell to wrestle. Talked about last year's playoff run. Talked about the juice that Notre Dame has on the recruiting trail because of last year's playoff run. We got a lot to get into. I mentioned the transfer portal. We'll touch on that. But, man, let's start here. Nico Iamaleava made massive waves throughout the college football world, throughout the sports world, really, y'all, when it became apparent that Tennessee is going to move on from Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava will be in the transfer portal when that thing opens up. So what's next for Nico? We'll unpack it right now. If you're new to the show, though, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe. College football year-round. Very important to be dialed in year-round right now because you got teams making the college football playoff, and then their quarterback ends up asking for more money, whether it's from him or from his camp, and then he ends up in the portal. So if you have been tuned out for the entire offseason, you're going to show back up in the fall and be very, very confused. But let's recap this entire situation, shall we? Thursday, on 3's Pete Nakos reports, hey, listen, sounds like all is not that good in Knoxville. Nico's asking for more money. Again, whether it's Nico or whether his team, more money was asked for. Nico's deal, allegedly, $2.5-ish million. All right, his reps during the winter portal cycle said, hey, we'd like to see that number right around $4 million. Didn't happen. Spring portal is approaching. And as Nico is saying he wants more money, Tennessee's like, nah, we're good on that. They're going back and forth. Friday rolls around. Friday before Saturday's spring game. Nico is not at practice. Saturday morning, report comes out. Josh Heupel said, Nico, we appreciate you. We're moving on without you. So Tennessee goes one direction. Nico's headed to the portal. What's next for both sides here? And I think it's very interesting when you talk about the situation as a whole, the blame, the conversation around blame and who's assigned that is something that I think is really interesting because a lot of people are here saying, hey, it's NIL's fault. It's the NCAA's fault. And I don't think either of those situations are totally perfect or where they're going to be here in the next 20 years. But let's make this very clear. NIL, as flawed as it is, the NCAA, as much as they have blame in the situation, this is a people issue, in my opinion. Like Nico Iamaleava and his camp, this is on them. All right, you had your deal in place. If you want to ask for more money, that's totally fine. But when you make the decision to skip practice on a Friday before the spring game, we're not doing that with you, brother. I mean, we appreciate what you bring to the table. We appreciate you getting us to the college football playoff last year. But credit Josh Heupel and that staff for drawing a line in the sand and not bending the knee. I love that. I think everyone in Knoxville loves that. I think everyone in college football loves that because it sets a precedent. But moving forward, this is not a NCAA issue so much as I think it is a people issue. As much as we talk about regulations and how we should have more of those, people still got to make decisions for themselves. You can have a speed limit be set at some ridiculous number, but people still got to choose how they want to drive. People still got to make sure they stay in the proper lanes and all the things like that. So I understand the blame towards the NCAA and things like that, but I really think, to me, the blame here falls on Nico Iamaleava and his camp for not handling this thing the right way, in my humble opinion. So we asked the question, what's next for Nico? The tough thing for Nico here in the future is there's no real step up that he can take here. Like he's probably going to play for a lesser caliber team, I'd have to imagine for a lesser dollar amount. If you wanted $4 million and Tennessee wasn't going to give that to you, you have no more leverage, brother. I mean, the schools that are mentioned in correlation with him or in connection with him, Tulane is a school that sounds like they could be in the sweepstakes. UCLA has been linked to him. North Carolina has said they will go after or be open to going after a transfer portal quarterback. No idea if that means they're interested in Nico or not. Are any of those schools paying Nico Iamaleava $4 million? If they are, it's surprising me. If they are, I don't know where that's coming from. So the leverage is gone. The other part of this is, are you actually in a better situation from a team side of things? Are you really playing in a better offense than you were under Josh Heupel? Are you playing with more talent at one of those schools than you were at Tennessee? And we openly questioned what Tennessee had on their roster. We openly questioned the receiving core. But Tennessee's receiving core is still head and shoulders better than what Tulane has. No shade to Tulane. Same deal with UCLA. Same deal with North Carolina. You're not in a better situation. You're not elevating any way, shape, or form if you're Nico. And the cherry on top here, when he goes pro, when and if that ends up being a reality for him, you just have a laundry list of questions now that you have to address for NFL scouts. Hey, why didn't you show up at practice on that Friday? hey, why did you ask for more money? Why did you want $4 million? And why was that the deal breaker for you to make you end up in the transfer portal? And a lot of people here are going to say, well, JD, yes, Nico this, Nico that, but really it's his camp, right? Bad advice, bad input. He's just a kid along for the ride here. No, he's not just a kid along for the ride. Nico's going to be 21 years old this college football season. If you're in high school, sure, maybe that's one thing. If you're a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and you're just doing whatever your camp is telling you to do, I understand how that's a tricky thing to stand up for yourself and have a discussion around your future and where you want to play. I get that. That's not this, though. Nico's been living on his own for a couple of years now. Nico takes himself to practice. Nico's a grown man, dude, at least legally. If Nico just showed up at practice that Friday morning, are we even having this conversation? That's where this whole thing fell apart for me. Also, whenever he ends up somewhere else in college football, now I promise you the staff that he commits to, that's going to be a conversation they have to have on the front end. He'll have to, I have to believe now, win over his team in a different degree, whatever that locker room is. Because the reputation he's going to have when he shows up is this dude's for himself. He's about money. And I hate that for Nico Iamaleava because, again, I don't think it's all on him, but I do think he had the power to change it and to change the situation, and he did not do that. The no muscle, the saying no to things, is a muscle you got to exercise, and it should have been exercised here for Nico when it comes to some of the input. I have to believe he got here from his camp. Now for Tennessee, what's next for them is a little bit murky. No pun intended here, because you got Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre that are your two quarterbacks on your roster. You would look to probably to be the guy to fill the Nico shoes next season. What I will say for Tennessee, though, is the pride is still intact. More importantly, your locker room is still intact. Kind of like a bad breakup. It may have been horrific. I mean, they may have cheated on you. It may have been a thing that could have just looked bad on you, looked bad on the other person. It's very public. Maybe there's some arguments out in the public sphere. But at the end of the day, man, you left with your dignity. You left with your moral compass still intact. And I think that's Tennessee here. They could have paid Nico. You don't think Tennessee's good for $4 million, dude? I promise you they are. I promise you they would have been good for another $1.5 million to keep their starting quarterback. But they drew a line in the sand, like we already said, and made it very clear, we're not playing this game with you. We're not operating this way. And if they had operated this way, a couple of thoughts here. One, it would not have been the last time that the Iamaleava camp came for them and asked for more money. That's first off. Second of all, what do you think that does to a locker room when the precedent is set that whenever you want more money from your staff or from the powers that be or from Josh Heupel or whoever, you can just walk right up to them and say, hey, pay us more or we're leaving. And they just bend the knee and say, okay. What message does that send to the second string lineman? What message does that send to the guy who's third or fourth in the depth chart at wide receiver who's making a fraction of what Nico's making? I think that the entire locker room has even more respect for Josh Heupel than they had before. I think the leadership of this team is going to have a tremendous amount of ammunition now going forward with the situation to rally the troops and rally the entire locker room. But at quarterback, what do? I think what you lost in Nico Iamaleava, truly you lost potential and you lost experience. Leadership remains to be seen what you lost there, but I don't think you lost a whole lot there, just definitely reading between the lines here. Production-wise, though, Nico accounted for 19 touchdowns through the air, 5 interceptions, 3 touchdowns on the ground. So let's go ahead and say it was right around 25 touchdowns you want to have next season. I think Nico would have been good for about that in 2025, right? I know 22 and 25 are different numbers, but let's just say that's about what you need to have next year. Can Jake Merklinger get you 25 touchdowns total? Doesn't feel like that tall of an order. Can George McIntyre get you in that neighborhood? Potentially. Taking a step further, I think Tennessee will go to the transfer portal. That's been pretty widely reported. They'll at least look at the portal to try and get a quarterback. Whoever you get out of there probably has the ability to get you that kind of production. So the excitement was the potential, right? The 5-star tools and all those things, but he hadn't actually done that on the field just yet, which I think a lot of Tennessee fans now, if they were whispering it before he left, they're shouting it now. You got to the playoff last year with that production. In 2025, I think you, if your defense stays at an elite level, you should feel pretty good about your chances to stay on track, if nothing else. Now, we speak to the transfer portal quarterback market for Tennessee, and everyone loves to talk about tampering. Tennessee's going to go tamper with somebody and take them off a top roster. I mean, it's college football in 2025. I'm not here to accuse anybody of anything. I will say, though, how much do you think Tennessee's phone is ringing right now as opposed to the calls they're making? Ari Wasserman of Andy and Ari on 3 said this yesterday. I think it's a great point. Tennessee's a quarterback destination, dude. You don't think there's a bunch of guys that are seeing the Tennessee job open up as a QB1 somewhere else and saying, man, I could play there. I could run that offense. I'd love to go play for Josh Heupel. I'd love to go light it up on Saturdays in Neyland Stadium, run out of the power tee, run to that checkerboard end zone. Like, there's so much about Tennessee that's attractive. And also in terms of, like, quarterback jobs to have, how many better quarterback jobs are there in college football? Like, I mean, I'm asking genuinely. I don't know. There's a really simple answer there. You're talking about teams that you need a quarterback at. So, long-term, man, I think that if Nico were to stay at Tennessee, yeah, it'd be nice to have a starting quarterback returning and have some continuity there. But if this is all going on behind closed doors, it was a matter of time before that negatively impacted the team in 2025. And it would, I think, very quickly have impacted the team when you look at beyond 2025 based on the precedent in that sense within your locker room and within your culture and, quite frankly, within how you do business. So a lot there with Nico, a lot there with Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to be okay. Now, it's not ideal to lose your starting quarterback before fall camp, but they're going to be okay. For Nico, I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he's able to take ownership of his career is how it seems to me, but we'll see how this whole thing unfolds here, man. The plot thickens. Now, something we've added to the show here in the course of really the last few weeks that y'all have done a tremendous job responding to. We open up the phone lines and say, listen, we want to hear from y'all. Call ourselves the People's College Football Show. You can't be that without involving the people. So 629-888-3931 is where you can call us, leave a voicemail. I asked y'all yesterday, via my Twitter page. Tennessee fans, sound off, man. The floor is yours. Let us know how you feel. We got a couple of calls to run through here, but let's start with one of our viewers in Knoxville. Actually, two of our viewers in Knoxville that are questioning if Nico Iamaleava was even worth the NIL package he was getting in Knoxville to begin with.
Hey, my name's Hunter Musta, calling in from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm a diehard Tennessee fan. Just calling to talk about Nico Iamaleava. I truly just think he's greedy. I mean, truly he doesn't deserve $4 million. I mean, he's already getting paid 2.5. I mean, that's pretty good for a 20-year-old, but I mean, I just don't think he deserves it. He didn't really show too much. He has a lot of potential, but he just didn't show too much. I wish him the best. My sister has something to say about it. My little sister, she's 12. So, I mean, there you go.
So, Nico Iamaleava really just does, if he really wants $4 million, to just go hand off the ball. I mean, I can do it too, just the way he did. I mean, $4 million, give me $4 million, so you just go hand off the ball just the same way he did.
Hey, you heard it here. Heard it here, JD. Have a good one.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but a 12-year-old girl is making a valid case when you talk about how often Tennessee ran the football last year. I think a lot of Tennessee fans feel the same way as her. Tennessee last year was top 5 in America when it came to rush attempts per a game. Now, Tennessee also ran a whole lot of plays because of how they run their offense up-tempo, NASCAR fast, but the point I think is fair that they're making. Nico Iamaleava was getting $2.5 million and then wanted $4 million. Now, the reason why that happened is because the market moved. Okay, you see Carson Beck making what he's making, upwards of $3 million. Darian Mensah at Duke making a lot of money, also in that $3 million plus range. So I think from Iamaleava's side, he's saying, hey, they are making that. We made the playoff with me. I'm back for another year. Like, hey, pay up. I think there is something to acting as expensive as you're able to be. The thing with Nico was always potential, right? It was always the tools. And that's still a thing with him. He could still have an awesome career in college football. The thing I think with him is you got to figure out the camp and you got to figure out some of these things that you saw last year with just not being able to totally, from what I could gather at least, process everything he was seeing on the field in real time against some of those really elite defenses. But the point remains, the guy's got a ton of physical ability. But I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you say, no, we shouldn't be paying you. We should be paying our defense. We should be paying our offensive line. We should be paying our running back room from last year. Dylan Sampson, we should have given him an extra bonus on his way out the door. Not Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava played his role. I want to be careful how I say this because I do think that he did a good job last year But if I'm a Tennessee fan saying he deserves $4 million, he was not the reason for all our success last year. Good player, great ceiling, a lot of potential, but $4 million? I don't know if I believe he is owed that much money. So I think there's a lot of validity to what our friends in Knoxville are saying there when it comes to how much money he should have been paid in 2025, all right? Well, Owen wants to sound off from Virginia. He's fed up with this, man. Take a listen.
Hey, JD. Hey, man. This is Owen out here in Virginia. Just wanted to say I'm a huge Vol fan. This is ridiculous, man. I mean, what is going on with college football? Give it a break.
Oh, and I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. Give it a break. This is not the college football we all grew up with. And it's tricky because this is the college football that we're starting to step into, and we still love it. We still enjoy it. This is still something that every single fall Saturday we will be dialed into, much like you, Owen. But the thing is, I'm with you, dude. This is not what college football was built on. And I think a lot of people that are new to college football in this space, that are new fans, are saying, what's the big deal? Kids are getting paid. It's a good thing, right? Of course it's a good thing. But the thing that makes us sick is it was never about the kids getting paid that made this sport special. What made it special, what made it different from the NFL, was passion for your school, loyalty to your school, purity of the Saturday sport, which was we go to school to get developed for the professional level. I love NIL in and of itself, but I don't think that where we're headed with the lack of regulation is sustainable. Now, I say that. I also want to reiterate this. I don't think the lack of regulation is a fair answer as to why this is going how it's going. Like, yeah, maybe it would have helped provide some guardrails. But again, I just think regardless of the regulation you put in place or the guardrails or whatever rules you put in there, if you're the NCAA or powers that be, bad decisions will still be made by people. There will still be bad choices made. And from what I can tell here, this is a bad choice from Nico, a bad choice from Nico's camp, bad advice at the very least to say, we think we're worth more. We're gonna go ahead and call your bluff, Tennessee. Tennessee, in return, calls his bluff and says, go ahead and walk. We'll see you. Don't let the door hit you. More power to Tennessee. It's tough because it's a weird college football headline. The unfortunate part of this is that we talked to Marcus Freeman later in the show. This has been happening for a while, dude. Stuff like this has been happening for a minute in college football. This is just the most public version of it. This is just something now that we're getting to see play out in real time. It's a very ugly breakup, but people have had situations like this happen for a long time in their locker rooms, and it's gross. I hope we don't see more of it. I hope now, this is important, I hope that Josh Heupel and Tennessee overall setting the precedent of saying, actually, no, we're not playing ball with you if that's how you want to operate. You can walk, and we'll figure it out on our own. We protect our culture and this brand and this university too much for you to just whip us around like this. We're not doing that with you. I hope that precedent is something that other teams and coaches and organizations see and follow suit. So, Owen, I hear you. I don't love it, but I wonder and I hope and I'm optimistic that Josh Heupel putting his foot down and saying, nuh-uh, that'll empower other places to maybe nip this trend a little bit in the bud here as we move forward in the future of what college football is. Got Aiden from Chattanooga. He wants to sound off a little bit on what's next for Tennessee, and he's not 100% sure this was a Nico decision or Nico's at fault in this whole thing.
JD, this is Aiden Elsey from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I guess my thoughts on this were we were Lane Kiffin out of this situation. I do believe that we probably should not have let him go for, $2 million, especially when we're sitting here offering $4 million for a transfer portal, but him not showing up to practice, that's Big Nick's problem. That's not Nico's problem. That's not Josh Heupel's problem. I really think all of the blame comes down to Big Nick. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks.
So Aiden there is referring to Nico Iamaleava's dad. He's saying that he is the person giving him advice. He thinks he's at fault. I hear where you're coming from, Aiden. I also hear where you're coming from where you say, hey, man, $2-ish million. If you're getting right around $2 million for your deal right now, if $2 million keeps you at Tennessee, we're good for it. Should we just pay the guy? It wouldn't have been the last time, man. It wouldn't have been the last time. Like, you would have had to pay him again whenever he came back for you in November or the college football playoff or whenever. So I don't think it would have been just a quick fix. Hey, here's the money. We're good. No, it wouldn't have been that. I also would say, to your point around it being someone else's fault other than Nico's, what happens when he goes pro? What happens when he has someone else in his ear tell him, hey, actually, you deserve more money. You should go somewhere else. Actually, don't show up for OTAs. Actually, don't show up for preseason. Actually, don't. Where does it stop? And so, to me, I keep saying this. I think the blame falls on Nico. Not so much directly to where it was his idea to ask for more money or it was his idea to miss Friday of practice. That, to me, doesn't track with everything we've heard about the kid. But at some point in time, you're not a kid. You're going to be 21 years old. You got to take it. You got to take ownership of your own career, because when it's all said and done, and you are at the alumni events for wherever your final college is, and you're back at the country club, playing golf, whatever it is, and people talk about your career, they're not talking about your camp. They're not talking about what your dad told you to do or not do. They're talking about you and what you've done on the football field. You're responsible for your career, and so this is harsh. Y'all, it's the real world. Talking about guys making millions of dollars. If we're trusting you to pay you this much, we should trust you to make your own decisions. That's how I feel about it. Not that you can't have an agent, not that you can't have family speak into it and give you good advice. I really, really feel like this was a Nico thing. And I hope now for Nico, this is an alarm clock of sorts to say, I got to own my stuff. I got to own my career. Because if I don't, how many more schools am I playing for? That's how I feel about it. One more call for you here. Another caller saying, in the same vein, maybe should have kept Nico, but maybe even a little more bleak of a outlook here on the future for Tennessee football.
Hello, JD. Kelson coming in here, East Tennessee. I'd just like to point out, I'm hurt. I thought Nico was going to be that guy. And, I never thought this would happen. $4 million, might be pricey. I think Tennessee should have kept him, to be honest with you. Sorry if you hear NCAA in the background. I'm doing a little Duke Dynasty. But, I ain't gonna lie, I'm hurt. And after watching the spring game, I think they might be cooked, JD. I think they might be cooked. I'm not gonna lie to you. They might be cooked.
Now listen, I don't know if Tennessee's cooked. All right, Jake Merck-Slinger still on that roster. George McIntyre still on that roster. Two what I would say is very capable quarterbacks. Think they could be the answer for you. Too, George McIntyre looked pretty good in that spring game. I'll say that. Jake Merklinger also had a good spring game. Very vanilla. I don't want to take too much from a spring game. But what I will say is, if you had paid him the money, like I had just said, it wouldn't have just created a problem for you in the sense that you got to answer to him in the future when they ask for more money, because that would have happened. Hear me clearly. It would have happened in the future. Think about what that would have done to your locker room, to your culture. It would have set the precedent that anybody can go just walk up to the coaching staff and ask for more money. It's not a good thing, dude. It's not a way you want to live your life. I'll also say this too, speaking to maybe Tennessee being cooked. I'm sorry you feel that way. It's April, so let's all calm down a little bit. But I will say Josh Heupel has proven he can win different ways, dude. He can win different ways. One with Hendon Hooker, one with Joe Milton. Made the playoff last year with Nico Iamaleava. Like Nico, again, he didn't light the world on fire. What excited you was always his tools and his potential. You didn't see that really show up last year. 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Good numbers. I think you can find that in the portal. Again, I think Tennessee is going to be a portal destination. So Josh Heupel, I wouldn't put it past him to find a way to make it work, whether it's Merck-Slinger, George McIntyre, transfer portal quarterback. They're going to be okay, especially if they're running the football how they did last year, especially if they're playing at that level on the defensive line next season. Tennessee's going to be okay. Hear me clearly. Will they make the playoff? TBD. But long-term now, Tennessee is going to be in better shape. I'm talking about past 25, 26, 27, beyond, because of Josh Heupel and this team taking a stand saying, nope, not how we do things. Power T is too important. Place too important. Our culture's too important. We're not doing that. So I hear the idea that maybe it would have been the easy route to just keep him and pay him or whatever. Y'all, the easy route is never usually going where you want it to go. So that's kind of the way we feel about that. But appreciate y'all sounding off, man. 629-888-3931. Give us a call. Give us your takes, whether it be on Nico, whether it be on college football in general. Like, just shoot us a call, shoot us a voicemail, and we'll make sure we get to you and have it on the show. Good stuff from y'all there, man. How about that? Buddy's getting his sister on the show. It's a family affair here on the Hard Count, dude. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Now, the transfer portal opens on Wednesday. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nico Iamaleava will be in there. Pete Nakos of On3, who, again, broke the Nico Iamaleava news, so make sure you're following him there. Got a little little portal primer out there for you, talking about some teams that could be in the mix. We'll get to that in a second. Just a snippet of the intel, not all the intel. Get a membership at on3.com to get all the intel over there from Pete Nakos and the team. Before we do that, I want to make sure y'all know the hard count presented by Culver's. Excited to let y'all know, man. Andy and Ari on 3 will be coming to you live from the draft in Green Bay. Thursday, April 24th to Friday, April 25th. Y'all, let me set up right outside the famous frozen tundra of Lambeau Field at the Culver's Great Wisconsin Tailgate. Born in Wisconsin, Culver's is the home of the legendary Butterburger, fresh frozen custard, and Wisconsin cheese curds. There's no better rep of America's Dairyland than that. So Andy and Ari are going to have some special guests throughout the draft that you won't want to miss. Stay tuned for more details and get ready for a weekend of fun made fresh with our friends at Culver's. Now, Culver's, with all those menu items I just mentioned, Butterburger, fresh frozen custard, Wisconsin cheese curds, they don't got to hit the portal. Their roster is set. However, your roster may not be set. You might be having hit the portal. And the difference with the spring portal and the winter portal, the winter portal in my mind is where you can really change your roster. Like if you're talking about building a house, the winter portal is where you knock down some walls, you put a pool in, maybe you put a brand new, I'll say this too, maybe you put a couple of new things in the backyard. I don't know. Spring portal's a lot more, we're putting in the appliances, maybe some new wallpaper, maybe we get a new TV for the bedroom. I don't know. I don't want to judge you if you put a TV in your bedroom, but it's for you to decide. So the spring, I think, will have a lot less chaos. Now, the one thing I will make sure we touch on here, the Nico Iamaleava portal entry and what Tennessee does could trigger a couple of quarterback dominoes across the sphere here. Worth noting, Nico Iamaleava cannot enter into the transfer portal and go to an SEC team. It's the way the whole thing works. He can enter the portal, go anywhere else, but not go to a team in the SEC. So I don't expect a ton of, personally, my feel on this, I don't think there'll be a ton of SEC quarterback dominoes, but the plot thickens. We'll see what happens here. The reason why we're not seeing a ton of extra chaos in the spring transfer portal is because these collectives and these people in charge of money at these different institutions are saying, okay, do we want to spend big money to go land big fish in the transfer portal, or is it better to take big money and keep a top player on our roster? There's been a lot of big names over the course of the last couple of portal cycles that we've heard about here at On 3 potentially going to enter that never actually enter because someone steps in at the 11th hour and says, no. You, stud wide receiver, stud quarterback, you're not hitting the portal. We got to check for you. We're going to make sure that you stay at this school. So that's why I think you see less activity in the spring portal cycle. But in terms of teams that'll be going on the hunt in the transfer portal when it opens up here tomorrow, LSU, when they lost Bryce Underwood under Brian Kelly and they lost his commitment, I should say, that kind of started their villain arc. I said this a couple times about LSU. There's so much pride in that fan base. I think there's a lot of firepower within that fan base, within that operation there. They are, I think, now pissed off for greatness. The winter portal reflected that with their top 10 portal class. Looks like they're going to be going after a defensive tackle in this spring portal cycle if they can find one. Now, a defensive tackle or defensive lineman in general during the spring, it's kind of like going after Turbo Man on Christmas, if you know the movie Jingle All the Way. Like, it's very, very difficult to find. Everyone wants one. So if there's someone that's going to find one, though, someone going to land one, LSU is going to be swinging a big bat in efforts to get one. Miami, death, taxes, Mario Cristobal engaging in portal combat. Sounds like they're going to be after a wide receiver to try and maximize Carson Beck. You got Malachi Toney, who's been a stud freshman for them. You got Josiah Trader, but we had Mario Cristobal on the show. Stay tuned for that interview when it drops. And he's like, listen, they're great players. We love what they've done in practice. We want to see them go do it in a game, though. So, per Pete Nakos, Miami will be after a wide receiver in the portal to hopefully shore up the acquisition of a Carson Beck via the last winter portal cycle. Now, it sounds like Miami will also go after a linebacker. Just food for thought. Seems like they're going to try and bolster that defense as much as possible based on what they weren't last year. USC, Chad Bowden, however you want to call it, just make sure you call him one of the best GMs in college football. And they are revamping their roster still through the transfer portal. They will be a player with the resources and their personnel department. They're going to get active. All right, so keep an eye on USC. North Carolina, y'all, Chapel Bill, just hanging out there in the Argyle. I'm still waiting on them to make a splashy roster move via the portal, whether it be the portal or high school level. They are open to, keyword open, to adding a portal quarterback. Is that Nico Iamaleava? I don't know. That'd be a lot of fun. But you would think, dude, with as many Super Bowl rings as Chapel Hill has, wouldn't be a bad recruiting tool, Cato. I don't know. That's how I feel about it right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at UNC, but they're going to be a player. Penn State going after a receiver. No duh. Okay, Michigan, they're going to go ahead and try and add some more pieces around Bryce Underwood, both on the offensive line and at the receiver position. But the plot will thicken. I tell you, there's not going to be a ton of chaos. As I say that, I'm sure some crazy news is breaking around, some big name jumping in the portal. Head on a swivel. Follow all the On3 social accounts, especially Transfer Portal and especially Pete Nakos. Lock in, and let's make sure we have a tremendous Transfer Portal experience together. We'll get through it together, and we'll come out the other end even better. Even better, man. So we spoke about Bryce Underwood a second ago. Y'all, spring propaganda is just, it is ripe this time of year. It's delectable. And we got some phenomenal prop over the course of the last week or so, quite frankly. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll give one more preface here because I think it's important for all the new viewers to the show. Spring propaganda is something that your school is putting out on the social media pages. More often than not, it's a video. And it's not necessarily a full picture of what your team is doing during spring, but it's a highlight play. Maybe it's a one-on-one play. Maybe it's just an ISO picture of the quarterback or ISO video of the quarterback throwing a dime. Something to get you believing in what you're going to be in the fall. We support it. We encourage it. We promote it. And Michigan gave us some tremendous spring propaganda here from A1 Bryce Underwood. Check out these 3 throws in slow motion, courtesy of the Michigan social media page. Check out the RPMs. Check out the spot. Up there, top shelf, looks like it's over defensive back there and right where only his guy can get it. Another one here, smooth motion. The ball is spinning. Fred Moore will take some yak. Fred Moore now, too, could be a ball player for Michigan. I think he's one of the more explosive playmakers they have. Could be a big pop year for him. Michigan's longest pass play last year, 36 yards. You heard me say it. Looks like they could go for more than 36 if Fred Moore stays in bounds. Last one here, so smooth. Again, this is slow motion. Ball is spinning. Outside shoulder. Tremendous spot. Forget Carrie Underwood. Bryce Underwood about to take over here. I'm so excited to watch what he is here in the spring game this Saturday for Michigan. The propaganda from him is just awesome because of, one, the dude's massive. Like, you watch him next to those linemen. It's listed at 6'4", 208 pounds. That's the biggest 208 pounds I've ever seen from a true freshman. All right, so you got that. All those clips are of him throwing the football downfield. Oh, the craziest thing about this, when I think about the idea of what Michigan can be under Bryce Underwood offensively, he can do that, but then all that being throw the football like that, but then he can also take off and go 60. Like, you do a Google search and you see Bryce Underwood's 40 time unofficially listed at like 4.5 range. That's silly. At that size, with that smooth of a throw downfield, with that kind of juice behind the ball, like, it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so on top of all this, Michigan fans, make sure you're subscribed, just so you know. Again, have to make this quick plug here because I know a lot of y'all watch the show. Thank you for that. I can't help but think as I watch Bryce Underwood spinning it downfield, go get the guy some dudes to throw to, man. Go get him some pieces. Because if I'm the Michigan social team putting this out there for everyone to see, hey, look at this dude playing quarterback for us. He's a little bit freakish, huh? A little bit different than what we've had here, right? Even J.J. McCarthy, as good as he is, he wasn't taking off like Bryce Underwood's going to take off. He didn't have the physical tools Bryce Underwood has. Now, he still has to do it in the game, still has to translate. But I'm saying, okay, fans, see this. You know how upset you'd be if you're a Michigan fan and you get to October and you're like, man, Bryce Underwood's awesome, but we don't know how awesome he can actually be because we got, guys like J.D. PicKell running out there for him playing receiver. That's not good business, dude. Go get him some ball players. Get him some ball players with the portal opening up. Get him some help on the offensive line. This, to me, just creates more urgency to have the right pieces around him to maximize his ability because they're raving about him during spring practice. Raving about him. The arm talent, the leadership, all those things. He's going to be special. He has all the potential to be special. Now, how special he is and how special Michigan is with him playing quarterback remains to be seen. A lot of that has to do with the pieces around him. So before we judge what Bryce Underwood's going to be in 2025, make sure now we have the variable accounted for of who he's getting the ball to. But the propaganda, man, it's tremendous. Delectable. Cato, can we play that one more time? Just run through these past 3 throws here. Again, up and away. I think this is away from a DB, then over a linebacker or a safety there. Ridiculous spot. And then this one right here, a little yak, Fred Moore, catch and run. Notice he gets it to him upfield, doesn't have to adjust his body too much, get upfield. Okay, 36 yards is our longest completion last year. Again, stay in bounds. Maybe that's 36 yards. I don't know, but that gets me fired up. And then this throw right here, over the outside shoulder. Knock, knock. Who's there? Bread man. Put it in the bread basket. Delivery. I love that, dude. I absolutely love that. So Bryce Underwood's going to be really good based on that propaganda. We'll lean into it. We'll enjoy it. And if I'm Michigan, go get my guy some freaking weapons, all right? So some more spring propaganda, though, came out of Gainesville. Florida had their spring game this past weekend. Very important to note, they did not televise their spring game. So you heard about Dallas Wilson going 10 catches for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only way you can really experience that is if you watch it on the socials and say, what was going on? Show me the highlights from that. And Florida, based on their social team, or per their social team, did exactly that. So check this out. Dallas Wilson pretty much doing whatever he wanted. High point at 6'3", 6'4"-ish, 210. I guess a shade under 6'4". Get off me with the stiff arm there. Another catch. Get in the end zone. Touchdown. As a true freshman, y'all, dude just got his student ID. He's going for darn near 200 yards in the spring game. It's like when you play a video game and you're playing on rookie and you very quickly realize, hey, this is way too easy. It's like, yeah, give them all Madden. That stiff arm there is nasty work from the social team. That's your teammate putting him on a T-shirt there, man. Golly. Just absolutely ending his whole existence. Also, man, I can't help but think about this. DJ Lagway didn't throw a pass in this game. I appreciate Harrison Bailey and what he has been for Florida during spring practice. I appreciate what he did there getting the ball to Dallas Wilson. But Harrison Bailey ain't DJ Lagway. What happens when DJ Lagway gets out there and starts throwing the ball to Dallas Wilson? What happens when you got J. Michael Sturdivant elevating even further than what we heard about him during spring practice? Like, that's the crazy part. J. Michael Sturdivant was the guy during the week we kept saying, hey, he's going to have a spring game now. This guy is going to be wide receiver 1. He didn't have 200 yards on the day, that's for sure. So you got J. Michael Sturdivant paired with Dallas Wilson, who looks ready to play right now, paired with DJ Lagway when he's ready to roll. Didn't even mention what the running back room did on that day. They had a tremendous day. He had one back go over darn near 200 yards himself. Like, they're going to be, I think, in the position to be very multiple on the offensive side of the ball. All right? So if that's the case now, you're able to maximize DJ Lagway down the field, able to take some pressure off of what they have up front. I love the way that Florida's built, man. And I know this is a lot from a little with Dallas Wilson, but adding him into the mix, not just as a guy who can provide some depth, but a guy who can legitimately, like, play for you game one and be a real threat, and if you don't give the proper coverage to, can hurt you. What a luxury for a second-year starting quarterback in DJ Lagway. I think that's absolutely huge. One more thing I'll say, Billy Napier's kind of caught a lot of flack over the course of the last few years at Florida with his roster and how he recruits and where they finish in the rankings, and it's a conversation that's pretty fluid and is all over the place, but I'll just say this. Shamir Dike goes to Florida, tears up the NFL Combine. Elijah Badger goes to Florida, has a great NFL Combine. J. Michael Sturdivant, nobody really knew a whole lot about nationally, at least, when he was at UCLA. Goes to Florida. They talk about him being wide receiver 1, size, speed, all that. Dallas Wilson, high-profile recruit, but tears it up game 1. I mean, appearance 1, I should say, for Florida in the spring game. Billy Napier, a lot of those Louisiana teams that he had, a lot of players from those rosters ended up playing either in the NFL or on SEC teams. Don't sleep on the Billy Napier evals now. I don't know that we give him enough credit. Dallas Wilson, while it probably wasn't the most difficult eval when a dude's jumping out the gym and running like that at 6'3", 210, looks to be another one for Billy Napier when it comes to being able to assess and utilize talent out there in Gainesville. So big spring game for Dallas Wilson. Gets the people going. It's provocative in Gainesville. Speaking of provocative, some spring propaganda, again, from Oklahoma. They did not have their spring game, but they did have the Crimson Combine. And this is textbook propaganda right here. Textbook propaganda. Check this out from John Mateer. Yeah, it's 7-on-7. Yeah, it's PicKell. Y'all, I don't care. Frozen rope society to Deion Burks. Over the middle. Name 5 brothers. You can't get in unless you do. John Mateer named 6 brothers at Frozen Rope House, and he knew everybody there. Look at this, man. I mean, I don't care. There's no rush. I don't care that there's not any pressure coming. I don't care that it's 7-on-7. Like, a throw like that, dude's got it, man. Dude's got it. I want to make sure this is very, very clear when we have this segment. John Mateer, I think, with all that he does as a playmaker, he gets the comps, to Baker Mayfield, and some of that's fair. He gets so much conversation around what he does off script and off schedule. He's a real deal quarterback. He can absolutely spin it. Not going to be a gimmicky offense here under Ben Arbuckle. Deion Burks, too, being unlocked in this offense would be absolutely huge. Now, he was hurt last year a lot. I understand that. But if he's able to be maximized in this offense, they're going to be scoring a lot of points in Norman. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, not a lot of people, but everybody knows this guy, Johnny Honest Take. You know what I'm talking about. They preface their negative take with, well, just being honest. Well, if we're going to be honest here, this is what. Just to be honest, Oklahoma averaged 5.8 yards a pass last year. So when Johnny Honest Take tells you, well, it was the Crimson Combine, just to be honest, it was no rush. Dude, miss me with that. You were 129th out of 134 teams last year. If you can't get fired up around John Mateer ripping a C to Deion Burks in 7-on-7, give me a break, dude. Just be honest somewhere else and leave that attitude somewhere where we can't hear you, because I think that's absolutely garbage. Cato, can we run that video one more time? I want to highlight one more thing around John Mateer in that throw. Check out just the way he puts his entire body into that throw. I was trying to think of who that throw reminded me of, and I came up with two names. Jackson Dart, very different quarterback, different size obviously than John Mateer, but he did a great job last year just watching him. Not a quarterback guru, but he put a lot of his core rotation through the ball, and it put a lot of RPMs on it. Bryce Young was elite at this. Now, that's high-profile comp, a Heisman Trophy winner, but I legitimately think that's who that reminds me of. Maybe a different arm slot. Not to play QB whisperer here, but just seeing stuff like that from John Mateer. I don't care about the rush. I don't care about the situation. I don't care about 11-on-11 or 7-on-7. He's got it. All right, he's got it. And so if Deion Burks, like I said, is maximized, get him out in space, move him around, they're gonna have a good time scoring points in Norman. And I promise you that yards per pass number will be a lot higher here in 2025. Oklahoma fans, make sure you are subscribed. Appreciate y'all in advance for that. Now, best for last, man. This is one that I woke up to this morning. Caden Smith, Cato, as y'all know him, fresh off a birthday, sends me this piece of propaganda, and the text said, this is my kind of propaganda. Caden Smith, if y'all know, 2-time All Sun Belt safety, so he's got a special appreciation for lumber being laid. Usually we would give you a play-by-play for this propaganda. I want you to just sit back and listen to the football music that is USC running their midnight alley drill. Check it out.
Oh, baby! Come on! TJ to Walker!
Do it, boy. Let's go, dude. That fires me up so much. If you're listening on podcast, let me break it down for you. There is a drill that USC is running per their social media team called the Midnight Alley. You got 3 defenders laying on their stomach that, as soon as the whistle blows, pop up and meet 2 blockers from the offense, plus a ball carrier. So you got 2 defenders going head up with a blocker. 3rd defender's got to go make a tackle. And Jaden Walker, redshirt freshman linebacker for USC, delivers the boom on this running back at the pylon. And y'all, if that doesn't get you juiced up, can't help you. Cannot help you. And yeah, it's spring propaganda. Yeah, we're taking a lot from a little. That's what this whole deal is. But it's interesting to juxtapose what that drill was, what the tweet is. Midnight Alley drill is back at USC, and what we've said around USC over the course of the last couple of years. How many times as a USC fan did you have to sit here and listen to folks like myself behind a mic say, USC, they're just soft on defense. If USC could just get some physicality on defense, if USC could just set a different tone, y'all, that tone looks to be set. That defensive culture, as Cato would say, is set. That's a physical drill, man. You don't do that drill during practice unless you're down to hit a little bit. And I'm not saying they don't do it other places across college football, but I tell you what, man, that social clip is speaking louder than words in terms of the reaction, in terms of the pads. Like that was a violent period from USC. From the excitement to the juice to the drill itself, like that is a violent thing to do during practice. If you're violent during practice, you're violent during the games. Something we've asked for USC under Lincoln Riley for a long time here. So credit D'Anton Lynn for overhauling that defensive philosophy, changing the literal temperature in that building when it comes to how they play defense. And at the same time, credit Lincoln Riley, dude. Whether it was his choice or whether it was someone else making that choice for him, he had to adapt on defense. And so when he was tasked with going out and hiring a new defensive staff, went out and got arguably one of the best in the business in D'Anton Lynn from the NFL, Eric Henderson from the NFL. Like, they got real deal credentials on the defensive side of the football now, and it's showing in practice. It's showing in clips like that where you got guys knocking each other's blocks off during a spring practice period. I'll also say this. People forget, man, this has been USC. People think about the quarterbacks under Lincoln Riley. People think about the quarterbacks at USC with Matt Leinart and Carson Palmer, and you think about Reggie Bush and how good he was when he was running back out there. But, like, y'all, USC has been built on being a violent defensive operation. Taylor Mays, the safety. Brian Cushing, clinically insane linebacker. Raymall Lugo, that hit against the UCLA quarterback was looped on like the Capital One bowl season commercials for the longest time, with a hit with that dude doing like his legs flying up out of bounds when Mal Lugo delivered the hit. Probably would have been a pretty severe targeting penalty in modern college football. Clay Matthews, human torpedo bat. Like, you hear what I'm saying? This has been what USC's MO has been throughout the course of their history. So seeing it just in a very, very small snippet, that similar flavor being back in Los Angeles, I'm here for that. I'm here for that all day long. Great propaganda from USC. USC fans, make sure you are subscribed. We appreciate y'all in advance for that. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Good propaganda. Real good propaganda. Now, with the propaganda, we also have got some real things to talk about here. Not that propaganda is not real around spring football. We got some real updates for us to have with the spring games wrapping up across college football. A couple of quarterback battles I want us to fly through here really quick. Let's start with Ohio State. Ohio State had their spring game this past Saturday in the shoe. Julian Sayin, Lincoln Kienholz, pretty much a two-horse race. Not the Octavian St. Clair and what he's going to be in the future, but that's probably the two quarterbacks you're looking at most closely to start next year for Ohio State. Julian Sayin looked like the guy. Lincoln Kienholz had a good day, but you watch Julian Sayin run the Buckeye offense in the shoe on that Saturday on Big Ten Network, and you just say, man, that's how the Ohio State offense is supposed to look. He was poised. He was in command. He was making throws downfield. That's what Ohio State, I think, has to be to go back-to-back as national champs. Like, it's funny to say this, but this is my comp and what I thought about putting this segment together. Like, when Drake is doing his music, it's like that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to sound. That's what he does best. That's who he is. When Julian Sayin throwing downfield to Mylan Graham and Carnell Tate, I'm imagining in the fall Jeremiah Smith gets more involved. That feels like a pretty not risky statement to say. That's how it's supposed to look. That's how it's supposed to be. But when Drake puts out Honestly Nevermind, the album that was like dancehall music or house music, I'm sure it was fine in that sphere of things and that genre of music, but it's like, it's not really what we have come to expect from you. Not really where you're at your best. For Ohio State, Lincoln Kienholz could be awesome. But if you're not playing your best passer on your roster, it's not going to look how it's supposed to look. If I don't have Carnell Tate getting 3 or 4 catches, Jeremiah Smith getting 10 catches, I got our tight end game involved with Max Clare. Like, I need everybody involved to the degree I need them involved to down the field for Ohio State to look how they're supposed to look, to win how they're supposed to win. Now, the ultimate question around Julian Sayin is consistency, right? Because, I mean, like, the light bulb for him was very clearly on in the shoe on Saturday. Does it stay on? Because light bulb flashing on and off doesn't really help us here. It can't be on against Texas and then off against Michigan and it's on one week, off the next week. That can't be the way we live. Like, if Burlington Coat Factory's neon sign has got the OGO out on any given Saturday night, hey, we're the Burlington Cat Factory. It doesn't work. Okay, it's not going to be something we can shake on and move forward with. So my opinion is, as we move forward now, Ohio State, per Ryan Day and per the way this battle is shaking out, I don't think they will decide on a starter until mid-August. I say per Ryan Day because that's kind of the way he's approached things, even when it's a no-brainer who their starting quarterback is going to be. But I do think now, if you're going to tell me it goes into mid-August, the better, more talented quarterback from a skill set perspective, if this is where he's at leaving spring and he's not going to decline, I think it's a matter of time before he wins the job. So urgency in the spring with these two guys going back and forth is awesome. I think it's exactly what you need for those 15 practices. But during the fall, I want to see Julian Sayin start to separate a little bit here. because in the fall camp is where you, I think, as a football team, start to form your identity. You only form your identity as a football team if you've got the right leaders in place. And to know who your leader is at quarterback, I think would go a long way with Ohio State having a more solidified identity when it comes to week 1 and Texas rolls into the shoe. So Julian's saying, great spring game. Keep the lights on. Ohio State offense looking how it's supposed to look. Vibes will once again be immaculate in Columbus with him behind center. I think he wins the job. No surprise there when it comes to our prediction. Alabama, they had their A-Day, and it was not televised, so we're going strictly off the intel we've gotten from Bama Online. Get a membership there. Also, Bama fans, make sure you are subscribed. College football year-round. If you want more Bama content, best way to let us know that is by being subscribed to this channel, so thank you in advance for that. Ryan Grubb said if there was a game tomorrow, Ty Simpson would start. It's not over, but I don't think Ryan Grubb says something like this unless he feels comfortable enough about the gap between Ty Simpson and the other two quarterbacks. Like for me, I didn't talk to my parents about me potentially proposing to my wife until I felt pretty good that that was going to be the direction we went in. That I was eventually going to get down on a knee and ask her to be my wife, and we'd, live happily ever after, so on and so forth. Kind of the same vibe I get from Ryan Grubb, because if you didn't feel that way, you would just say, no, I think that, Austin Mack looks good, Keelan Russell looks good, all three are doing a great job. We'll see where we are in the fall. Boring answer, safe answer, would make a lot of sense. Now, Austin Mack, again, I'm not decommitting. I'm not decommitting from my pre-spring pick of him being the starting quarterback. But what I will say is my Austin Mack stock is it is on the market if you want to talk about buying some. Now, it's not over. Again, this battle is not over by any stretch of the imagination, but with it trending this direction, I feel like we can kind of read between the lines here a little bit in terms of how Alabama's going to approach this. Keelan Russell, he's still awesome, dude. He's still the future, still a 5-star quarterback that's going to do great things in Tuscaloosa. The reality is, though, Ty Simpson's been around the block a time or two, and he's playing like it. So this information, for those of y'all that have been tuned in or just following spring football in general in Tuscaloosa, not really all that surprising. All this means to me is that Ty Simpson is doing what you want your starting quarterback to do. Being consistent, making the right throws. It's funny, you'd hear the intel from spring practice, and it wouldn't often be that Ty Simpson had a bunch of crazy highlight plays. So maybe some people are here saying, well, JD, really Ty Simpson, isn't that kind of boring? That kind of the boring pick for us? Y'all, here's what I know. Adrian McCarron, he was kind of boring. Jacob Coker, kind of boring. Mac Jones, kind of boring. All good quarterbacks, all won a lot of games for you. So boring might not be the worst thing in the world here for you. And I don't even know that Ty Simpson's going to be that boring of a player, just so we're on the same page. But at the end of the day, man, wide receiver room is far too good for you to not have somebody consistent behind center. You can't have Jalen Milroe looking like he did against Georgia one game and then looking like he did against Oklahoma the next. You got to have something stable at quarterback. So with that being the case, I think that's encouraging here. Ty Simpson's, really started as a leader and is continuing to finish the spring as a leader. And I'd be surprised now we get to fall camp if one of those other quarterbacks made some massive move to overtake him to start game one. So with that being said, I think Ty Simpson will start, and that's the way it's trending right now based on Ryan Grubb and what he said to the media on, I believe it was Monday, he said that to the media around the Alabama quarterback battle. Now, Georgia, you could say they have a quarterback battle of sorts. It really feels like it's Gunnar Stockton's job. Maybe we call it a quarterback battle because it's Kirby Smart, and there's always going to be a battle for every position, regardless of who you are. They had their G-Day this past weekend. Gunnar Stockton started slow. Looked like he, per the intel over at Dogs HQ, finished really strong. If you're a Georgia fan, make sure you are subscribed. Quick plug there. But I thought that Gunnar Stockton, what he showed you in the playoff, honestly, gave me some encouragement. Seeing him have a little bit of pop against Notre Dame, I thought that was at least noteworthy. Now you give him a better receiver room, give him another spring in the system, all that. He's clearly got the locker room. If you needed any more evidence of him being a guy that the team rallies around, go ahead and watch him literally die on the turf in Atlanta, walk off under his own power, and then they end up winning the football game with Carson Beck handing it off. There's a high trust factor from the staff and from the locker room, and I think that's extremely important when you have as much talent at Georgia as you do. Puglisi is young, talented, inexperienced. Sounds like he played like it at the G-Day. I love so much, though, the intel from Rusty Mansell and the team at Dogs HQ. There is no sign of him hitting the portal. That's refreshing in a world where guys are hitting the portal like it's their job. It also tracks exactly with what we know about Ryan Puglisi. Dude committed when Dylan Raiola was committed. I'll rephrase that. He was committed. Dylan Raiola then committed to Georgia. Got a bunch of questions around if he was going to stay at Georgia, and he's like, "No, I'm 10 toes down here. I want to be a dog. That's what I want for myself. I'm not afraid to compete." Sounds like that hasn't changed. So good on Ryan Puglisi in that sense. So this isn't really where this discussion becomes interesting. It becomes interesting when you tie in the idea that Georgia will look in the transfer portal to go get a quarterback. Hear me clearly. This is not Georgia telling you that they don't like Gunnar Stockton. To me, this is Kirby Smart doing what Kirby Smart has always done. What is Kirby Smart a sicko for? Competition. That's what he does, man. That's what he does. He is going to make sure that if you are a starter at Georgia, you have earned it. Now, Gunnar Stockton, having been there more than 3 years, you could say in that way he's earned it. He's going to have to keep earning it. Okay, so I think Georgia will look at a transfer portal quarterback, but doesn't mean that they are going to have someone besides Gunnar Stockton starting for game one. I'd be wildly surprised if that was the case. For one reason, I don't know that you're going to find a higher, talent at quarterback in this spring portal market. That would surprise me. I also don't think you're going to find someone in the transfer portal that wants to transfer in after spring practice to try to go win a job during fall camp at Georgia. To put it simply, I don't know that you're finding someone that's actually about that life as a quarterback to go win the job at Georgia over Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton's proven he's about it, man. He's about it. Knock his helmet off. He's popping up like toast. I mean, he's not the starter 1 year behind Carson Beck. Doesn't matter. He's staying. Want to bring in a portal quarterback? He's staying. Doesn't matter. Like Gunnar Stockton, I think, is exactly the Georgia model. Wait your turn, bide your time, do the work, reap the rewards when it's time to reap them. I do think that ultimately he will be good enough for Georgia and they will have success with him at quarterback in 2025. But Kirby, if he can bring in a quarterback to promote competition, I think he'll do that. Now, we're going to get to this interview with Marcus Freeman here in just a second. We asked him about the quarterback battle, but let's give you our thoughts on the quarterback battle here before we jump into our conversation with Coach Freeman, because we got a lot of good stuff with him. Now, before the spring, I told you I think Steve Angeli is going to win the job. When when Notre Dame had their spring game on Peacock, Steve Angeli took the first reps with the one offense. Now, during the spring game, I did not think Steve Angeli looked the best. Now, more on that in a second. We'll give you our full thoughts on this. But before we do that, one, Notre Dame fans, make sure you're subscribed. Two, want to make sure y'all know the Hard Count brought to you by our friends over at Roback. Now, y'all that watch this show, big Roback guy. Roback Stan. They've been with us since before we got to On 3, us being this show, the Hard Count. Best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they're completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback's got everyday shorts. They got Delta Performance pants. We got some tees, some polos, whatever you need. Weather warms up a little bit, Roback has got you covered. Roback also proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and becoming the go-to brand for college athletes all across the country. Use code JD, roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code JD. Just those two letters, no periods, code JD. So lock in, man. I bet a couple of people were at the Notre Dame spring game rocking some Roback. More power to you. Steve Angeli took reps with the ones first. Do you believe in rep science? If you do, then you have your answer there. I think that this is going to be a thing that continues on into fall camp. Marcus Freeman essentially said the same thing. The spring game doesn't make me decommit from Steve Angeli. It does make me hedge my bet a little bit, though. Like maybe I'm taking that money I would have put on him being the starter, keeping a healthy amount of it still on him starting game one, but I maybe sprinkle a little bit more on CJ Carr. And quite frankly, Kenny Minchie, I might even throw a few dollars down on him starting too, based on what he did in the spring game. Thought he looked good with the ball in his hands. I thought him throwing down a backflip during the spring game deserves a little bit of attention. To me, it's all about who do you want to be as an offense. Do you want to be more ping pong or do you want to be more elementary school handball? Roll with me here. Ping pong, all about, hey, can the other person make a mistake? We'll hit it to you. We'll pick up yards. We'll get a field goal here. We'll get a touchdown there. We're going to score 30-ish, but our defense is going to lock you up, dude, and we're not going to give the football away. If that's how you want to get down, I think Steve Angeli makes a lot of sense. If you want to be more elementary school handball, where it's like, dog, we're hitting this thing as hard as we possibly can over your head. We're going to score 40 plus. We're going to throw the ball around the yard, get Greathouse involved. We'll get Jeremiah Love involved. We're going to try to break the scoreboard on you. I think CJ Carr gives you more opportunity to do that. I think CJ Carr looked the best during the spring game. So I don't know that Steve Angeli is going to give it away when it comes to this job in fall camp. But I do think the goal is to win a national championship for Notre Dame. And I think if that's your aspiration, you got to be able to win some of these track meets. You got to be able to run it back with Ohio State, even though they'll have a different quarterback, some different pieces on offense. I think you'll have to have a quarterback back there that makes the opposing defensive coordinator nervous. To me, I get most nervous if I'm calling the game against Notre Dame if CJ Carr is back there. Good athlete, great down the field, made a couple of throws where you're like, oh, that's a little bit different. Yeah, he put that one on the back shoulder away from the defender, 30-plus yards downfield on a dot. That might be something that is trickier to defend. So I quite frankly wouldn't be surprised if Steve Angeli started, but I think, again, if it's all about how you want to approach this thing being more offensive-driven, I think CJ Carr gives you the best chance to get that done. So Kenny Minchey could definitely factor in, but if it's between Carr and Angeli, I think CJ Carr, if that's your approach, would make me the most nervous calling games against Notre Dame. So let's run it right now to our interview with Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman. Again, talked quarterback battle. We got his opinion on the situation at Tennessee. A lot of great stuff from him. We appreciate all the time that he gave us. For those of y'all being dialed in right now, we're going to go ahead and let this interview run and we'll get out of your hair. But make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you're locked in the podcast. Man, it's an exciting time. More spring games this weekend. Portal opens tomorrow. Some of y'all doing taxes today. God bless you. For Cato on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We will keep this party rolling. Here's our conversation with Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman. Coach, got to start here. I think anybody who watched the spring game, watched you walking around out there, they say, hey, this guy could maybe still has a few snaps left in him here on the defensive side of the ball. What are you maxing these days? Are we still throwing around like 225 for reps, or what are we working with there when it comes to the weight room out there in South Bend?
It depends on the time of the year. Right now, I'm more, in-season mode and spring ball mode. It's getting there and get as much as you can in as little of time. And so it's more reps right now. Then post-spring ball, maybe be able to add some weight to the bar.
Okay. After we finish up here, I might have to message Katie and see if I can get that workout plan from you so we can get going some weight on the bar on our side here before the season. But, Coach, anyone who watched y'all last year, especially during that playoff run, got to see you on the sideline. It felt like having the time of your life. How fun was last year for you?
Fun is a word I would use to describe it looking back. In the moments, it could be stressful. It could be enjoyable, depending on the outcome of the game or the situation. But, when you look back at the season, that's what the journey's all about. It's about being able to enjoy from start to finish some of those ups and downs that a college football season presents. And then obviously we made a heck of a run and did a heck of a job. But it was a fun opportunity to be able to coach these guys and to see them have so much success was something that's enjoyable for me for sure.
It felt like time after time, it didn't matter the situation or the opponent or how many 5-stars they had. It was just like your team continued to just find a way, whether it was the Georgia game, the Penn State game. Why do you think that is? Why do you think your team was able to just find a way in those fourth quarters of those games?
I think, number one, it's a belief. It's a belief that no matter what the situation is, that we're going to find a way to make the play. We're going to find a way to achieve the outcome that we desire. And, I think that's most important. And you have to believe in some of the most difficult situations that we're going to find a way to overcome this. Unfortunately, 2 games last year, time ran out. I look at it like that. Like, it wasn't that we lost sometimes. It's just that we ran out of time. And what can we learn from those lessons that only losses sometimes teach you? Like, there's valuable lessons in winning and losing, but I think losses teach you maybe so many more valuable lessons that truly help you throughout the course of your career or your life.
And on that note, what do you feel like were the biggest learnings for you from last season?
Well, I think when you lose a game to Northern Illinois and you look back at that situation where week one you're have a huge win on top of the college football world, and then week two you're pretty much the embarrassment of college football. And what we had to learn from that game is how to handle success. Right? I think this was the first time in my 3 years as a head coach here that we won that first game, that first big game. The 2 previous years we lost a big one early and kind of came from behind as you looked at the season as a big picture. But this year, to start so high, we had to learn how to handle success. And then I think there's valuable lessons in the loss to Ohio State and in terms of schematically some things we have to do. Hey, how do we enhance the way we prepared for that situation and really look at different ways to execute when it matters the most.
And everyone's going to be asking you about your quarterback room. I know you're still finishing up spring, just had the spring game, but is there a current pecking order or a depth right now when it comes to those 3 between Minchie, Carr, and Angeli?
You know what? I truly believe we have 3 quarterbacks that can all start for Notre Dame and help us win in every game we play. And as much as that is an awesome situation, it's a difficult one too, because ultimately as we get ready for the Miami, Florida, we can only have one being a starter. And so we have time to figure out who that guy is going to be. They're all doing things really, really well. Everybody has areas of improvement, but I've been so pleased with the collective group of those 3 guys and the way they performed, the way they've handled some difficult situations in spring ball, and the way they've led the offense to and constantly improve.
What do you think it's going to take for you to eventually decide on a starter? Will it be something you see during a fall scrimmage? Will it be something you do post-spring? Or what's it going to take to win that job?
I think we got to look at many different things in the criteria of what we want out of our starting quarterback. But number one, you got to take care of the football. You got to make good decisions and take care of the football. And then, when all else fails, we want the guy that's going to help us make plays. And that's with your legs, with your arm, with your decision making, and a guy that can lead this offense that the guys want to play for and guys want to follow. But we have obviously criterias in terms of decision making, completions, and taking care of the football. But that always doesn't tell the story. Right? It is sometimes the outcome isn't a reflection of the reality of what went wrong or what went right with the play. And so we have to be really, really subjective in saying these are the things that we believe our starting quarterback must do well.
Is Kenny Minchie just throwing down backflips in practice, or was that a surprise when he did that? Because I saw that, I was like, whoa, hey, he might be our starting quarterback. I don't know if I want him throwing down a backflip in the spring game. Was that a surprise to you?
That was a huge surprise. I didn't see it in the moment. I heard the crowd start going ooh and ah, and it was funny this morning. I'm walking in, and one of the ladies at training table said the best moment of the spring game, and I'm like, what is she gonna say? And she said, when we saw Kenny Minchie do a backflip, and I'm like, well, listen, as long as it doesn't cost our team 15 yards, I'm good with it. I'm big on team celebrations. Like, we're gonna celebrate together. He tried to incorporate his teammates a little bit. Just make sure you don't get us 15 yards. And if you're going to do it, you better land it.
To say between him and Jeremiah Love now, we got a pretty strong average vertical, it looks like, between those two. But I'm excited to see more of that, obviously, in the fall. Coach, you're obviously someone who's a super pro player. You've been pro player the entire time throughout this new era of the portal and NIL. The Tennessee situation is the biggest story in college football right now. With you being a head coach at a major place like Notre Dame, what do you do to try and navigate and even avoid situations like that are, it seems like, maybe becoming more and more potential for commonplace in our sport?
Yeah, I think that was a situation that became public, but I think it happens all over the country, right? And that, I think you have representatives for players and representatives for the university that are kind of having those discussions, but that one was a public one. The reality is our players are getting compensated, deserve to get compensated. What you don't want to do is what I'm sure you've heard many coaches say is you don't want players to make a temporary decision based off a temporary situation that's going to affect them long term, right? And that transactional decisions aren't always the best ones for your future. And I think every situation's different. Every football program's different. But at the end of the day, you want to do what's right for college football, between what's right for college football, also what's right for our players. But you don't want this public disagreement to really tarnish what's so good about our profession and our sport.
It's interesting you mentioned that because you go down your roster, there are so many familiar last names. Burris, Bettis, last year Jordan Clark was on your team. Why do you think so many NFL families send their sons to go play for you at Notre Dame?
I think everyone is different, right? Everyone has its own strategic reason. But, I think if I look at it in the big picture, some are former players, right? That they played at Notre Dame and their sons come to Notre Dame. But then some like Elijah Burris, Plaxico Burris didn't play at Notre Dame. But I think as you look at Burris and Urlacher and some of those guys that see the value of this university, right, and the opportunity to develop as a football player as well here as anywhere else in the country, but also the opportunity to get a degree that will truly take care of you beyond the game of football. And I think a lot of those guys that have played in college and played in the NFL understand the value of this university, and not only its football program, but the network and the people that you're in contact with every day here at a place like this. So, for those guys to trust the future of their sons with our football program is humbling. It means the world, but we got to continue to make sure that we're selling the right product, right? Not only just the development of you as a football player, but the holistic approach into you as a human and you as a student.
I think people that watch and know college football know your reputation as a recruiter and what you're on the recruiting trail. Have you felt like there's any more maybe extra juice for the Notre Dame brand after last year's run, especially with the win over Georgia in that part of the country?
Well, I think as young people look at Notre Dame football, we haven't won a championship since 1988, right? And maybe their parents have understood the magnitude of Notre Dame football. But I think for us to be on that national stage and to go on the run we did was important for the younger generation to say, you know what, I can go to Notre Dame and I can compete for national championships and I can be developed for the NFL. And that's important. I think ultimately what's most important is the relationships that we develop with those guys in recruiting, with the guys we have in this building, because at the end of the day, young people will desire relationships, and that's what's going to get them to say yes.
And I know a big part of developing those relationships here going forward is your staff and what they're doing on the recruiting trail. Hired a new DC in Chris Ash. And for me, thinking about you making that hire with you being a defensive guy, I'm like, it's kind of, in some ways, maybe like, trusting someone with your baby a little bit, with the defense side of the football. What was that process like with hiring him? Are you getting on the whiteboard? Are we talking a lot of scheme? Or what went into hiring Chris Ash? What made him the right next hire for you as the Notre Dame DC?
I think one was the person I knew in Chris Ash through history, right? When he was at Ohio State, I got a chance to know him and know people that worked with him hand in hand and heard great things about him. And then I followed him as he went to Rutgers. And when he was out the year at Rutgers, he came down to Cincinnati and spent some time with us there. And I got to know him in the X and O's at standpoint of how he sees defensive football. And then he leaves and goes to Texas and then the NFL. And I was attracted just to his background, to his history. But when I started to interview him, it was a couple-week process of saying, how can you kind of pick up where we're at? We got a really good defense and enhance it and make it better. And I was really pleased with the things that he viewed in terms of what it takes to have successful defensive football. And so I didn't want to start over. I didn't want a brand new defensive scheme. I think that's a challenge always when no matter how good the defense coordinator or how good the former defense was, when you start from ground zero, it takes time to get, that group to where you want it to be. So I was pleased. He's come in here, guns blazing. He's done a heck of a job of really cultivating a great relationship with our staff, really developing a relationship with our players, enhancing the things that we've done previously. And I'm pleased with where we're at after those 12 practices.
And then on the other side of the football, you got Coach Denbrock coming back, but new quarterback. We already talked about that. But how do you see that offense potentially looking different now with no number 13 back there, or at least not number 13 in Riley Leonard? Do you see it being a little more of a vertical attack, get the ball to Greathouse, or is it going to be kind of more of a bread and butter what last year was? How do you see that side of the football evolving?
I think our core principles of what we do offensively won't change. the beliefs we have in being able to run the football and be able to take vertical shots and RPO in at certain times against what a defense is going to do to take away what you do successfully offense, those won't go away. But at the end of the day, you got to fall in love with what your guys do well. Very similar to Riley Leonard in terms of, it was a progression to figure out what Riley does really well. And what we had to do is tailor our offense towards that, call it in a way that he felt comfortable executing what we called. And there's great offensive plays. There's people that have wonderful offensive plays, but if your players don't understand the what and the why and the how, guess what? It's not going to be really successful. So we got to make sure that, again, let's tailor what we're doing to the strengths of our quarterbacks. I think they all do similar things well, but also all have a little bit different strength in certain areas. So depending on who the starter is going to be, we'll tailor the offense to fit that guy so he has success. But again, the core of what we're going to do offensively won't change.
And then having number 4 back there for him too probably isn't a bad thing overall. It sounds like he's cross-training some at receiver, I heard him say on the spring game broadcast. What's next for him this year? What's next for Jeremiah Love?
Yeah, I think, in those wild dreams that he has, he might think he's a receiver. But, he does a really good job in the backfield. And our challenge is to find as many ways possible to get the ball in his hands. And if that means putting him at wide out, maybe we'll do that. If that means motion him from the backfield or back into the backfield, we'll do that. But For's a playmaker. And I think he'll also be the first one to tell you, with the ball in his hands, he's as good as those guys in front of him. We have a lot of confidence in our offensive line. We've got 5 guys that have all started for us that are coming back, and they will be the strength of our offense. Like, there is no ball carrier that's great without a great offensive line. And so we love Jeremiah. He's going to do some wonderful, wonderful things for us this year. But we love the strength of our offense, which is always going to be our offensive line.
And Coach, do you feel like last year, I want to be careful how I ask this, because last time we talked about you feeling like, you didn't try to make Notre Dame cool again, but if people are saying that, so be it. Do you feel like what y'all did on the field last year even rebranded Notre Dame even further? I mean, being a real player here in the national picture when it comes to competing for national championships and always being in that playoff discussion?
I think every young person wants to play for a winner. And I think what you saw last year was a football program that's going to win a lot of games. And we fell short in the national championship game, but that hopefully is the foundation for what this program is moving forward. And so I always tell our guys, if playing for Notre Dame is cool and we're making it cool again, I want it to be selfless. I want it to be being a part of a program that's bigger than yourself, because that's, to me, what is cool. That's, to me, is what is going to create a lot of success for these guys as a football team, but also in life as husbands, as fathers, as people. And so selfless, I hope being selfless is what's cool, because that's what these guys are really displaying, and that's what's going to contribute to success moving forward.
It was cool to see that as a viewer during the playoff run. Like, it felt like a CVS receipt long of injuries throughout that playoff run, throughout that season. It was just next man up. It's about the team, find a way, and it was very cool to see it all happen on the field. Coach, last question for you. Appreciate all your time. Your son committed to wrestle at Cornell, which is somewhere I played football at. What has to happen for us to rent you out a couple of weekends during the fall, get you to maybe call celeb shot a couple of defensive game plans maybe for us to get us to the top of the Ivy League? 1, congratulations. 2, how do we make that happen?
Well, I've talked to my son a little bit about, am I supposed to say go Big Red? Is that the call?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Go Big Red, right? And trust me, I'm a huge Cornell fan now. I'm just so proud of him for making a decision that I truly believe will impact the rest of his life in a positive way. And although Cornell's wrestling program is one of the best in the country, to me, his chance to go get an Ivy League education is going to do wonders for his life. And I'm a huge fan. The thing I think I learned more than anything in recruiting is it's a reminder, right, is that the best thing in sales is to figure out is who's the champion, who's making the final decision. And although people think that I'm probably more involved than I am, but Cornell won my wife over. And that's a huge reason why my son chose to continue wrestling in Ithaca. So I'm excited for him. I would love to spend some time with their football program when I'm there supporting him. We're going to find a way to make that happen.
Done. Awesome. Well, hey, Coach, go Big Red. Sounds like good recruiting by that staff, getting Mrs. Freeman in the boat there. It sounds like it was a big move here and getting Vinny to Ithaca. But, again, congratulations. We appreciate you spending some time with us and excited to watch y'all here get after it in the fall.
I appreciate it, JD, man. Always good to see you, brother.